Hey guys, welcome to Carnivore Muscle Ramblings number 34. Today we're going to talk about our biggest mistakes on the carnivore diet. I am your hideous, grotesque co-host, Jerome Armstrong, guest on channel of the composition consultant, Jonathan Griffiths, and joining us is the incredible Wonder Woman, Miss Sophie. How are you guys doing today?
Hello.
Excellent, thank you. Excellent.
Good, thank you. What a great introduction. Shame not to yourself.
Yeah. The red-bearded imbecile.
That works. I've
one.
been called a lot worse, so.
Thank you for joining us today, guys. We're going to be talking about our biggest mistakes on the carnivore diet. Now, we've got different backgrounds, different experiences. Sophie, she's a mum. Sophie's on a big weight loss journey. Myself, say somewhat mental health, somewhat body composition, somewhat pain relief kind of journey, my own sort of individual thing. Jerome as well, also won't speak for him, but he's got a different journey himself. So we've got different backgrounds here. Although we are bodybuilders, effectively, we are coming from the standard Western diet from a different angle. So it'd be useful to have us talk about our own individual mistakes. So firstly, I'll talk about my mistakes. Just come here. I'll try and say things that are sensible. Okay. So I've got a few notes here. I get quite scatty thoughts sometimes. So sometimes when I'm bullet pointing something, I have to bullet point it physically. Otherwise, I'll talk about everything.
You'll ramble.
I'll ramble on Carnival Muscle Ramblings. Live segment 34.
Can't believe it's been 34. So many.
Okay. So first thing, I'd probably binge much harder when I started the carnivore diet. So what we mean by that is I'd effectively eat the foods I'm not meant to eat and have a negative feedback response from my body just so I know not to do it again. My biggest mistake, I think, was that I ate off plan but not hard enough. I didn't eat enough bad foods. So I almost got away with it. You know, the same way people talk about Paul Saladino, like, oh, you know, eats 300 grams of carbs a day and kilos of fruit and this, that, and the other, honey, whatever happens to be. I should have done that when I started it. I think that would have caused a lot less pain over the years overall. I think that would have given me that real hard signal just not to do it again. And I did get away with it. I mean, I was eating, every now and then I was having, I don't know, like a protein bar. Sometimes I'd have several protein bars, sometimes I'd have a box of protein bars. It wasn't until I really got to the higher end of those non-species specific foods that I'd noticed how deleterious it was to my health. My energy levels, my fatigue, pain, inflammation, my ability to sleep, congestion, my brain patterns, my thoughts, all that sort of thing went downhill. So I think that's probably my biggest mistake so far, which sounds very odd. You know, I wish I did something worse sooner, but that's basically it. Has anyone, between you two, have you got anything similar to that when it comes to like binge eating or eating off plan?
I know what you're saying. There are times when sometimes if you have a little bit of something off plan where you kind of feel like, oh, that wasn't that bad, and it makes you feel like you can have moments like that a little bit more often. But I've had that too, where sometimes I'll have something off plan in a really large amount, and it just makes me feel like trash, and it's like I just don't ever want to do this again. So I see where you're coming from. But no, I don't really have much to add to that.
Yeah, I think kind of similar. I think because my body seems to tolerate having a little bit of like non-carnivore stuff. As in like, I think it's probably like weekly that I'll have like a little chocolate coin that's in the kids' like treat box. Or like half a slice of bread and butter a week. And it doesn't seem to affect me. And I think because I've done that throughout and I've still, you know, made some sort of progress. But then I don't know whether if I'd have binged at the beginning, I don't know whether that would have helped mentally or not. I don't really know.
Yeah.
I guess until you was to try it, I wouldn't know. But I think now in my journey, I don't think I'd want to risk a binge.
Yeah, of course. I think as well with you, if you did binge at the start when you're in a position to have optimal fat loss, when you first start a fat loss or a weight loss program, it falls off. If you binged all that time, you wouldn't
Yeah.
have that sort of recognition for the efforts that you did put in for the 95% of the time. I think for you, in your case, yes, it was probably beneficial to just have a piece of chocolate each week rather than go off the rails.
Yeah. But yeah, I was kind of thinking about it today at work actually. I was like, I think I've had something non-carnivore, whether it's like a small chocolate coin, or like the little chocolate eggs you get at Easter, like the little mini ones, something like that a week. But I think because
Yeah.
it's not caused me any problem,
Sure.
because my scale issues is my sleep. Like if I don't sleep great, I really notice that on the scales. Obviously, then the bigger kind of non-carnivore stuff, when we have like our barbecues and stuff like that.
Yeah. Do you find the fact that you tolerate those small amounts, do you find that that makes you want to try and have a little bit more, or is just the small amount that you're having enough to kind of curb that craving or that desire? Because I
think
feel
if
like,
I'm in the,
sorry.
yeah, if I'm in the right frame of mind, then I can have that little bit and I'm fine. But if
Okay.
I think if I get in one of those mindsets, I could easily demolish the same amount Jonathan has. I think because that's what I used to do.
Yeah.
Years ago, before I started my weight loss, I would have those binging moments where you just don't know a stop. Do you know what I mean? It's just, and
Yeah.
I think people would be quite surprised at how much I could if I was in that mind frame. But I think thankfully I've managed to kind of teach myself to, no, a little bit's fine. You're fine now. You've had it.
Excellent.
Yeah, maybe we should stay on the topic of like the hunger signals. I mean, I've got something to add to that, which is probably my number 2 thing. It's probably that I'd listen to my hunger signals much better over trying to be robotic and exact and over analytical. I think whilst it is good to have a guideline, a template, an amount, a food list for the day, something to look at and think, okay, I'm going to eat these foods during the day and this give me this results. I think ultimately our bodies will tell us what we do and don't need, assuming we're eating the proper food.
Yeah.
I'm really beginning to see that now more and more. More I consult with different clients. I consulted with a client today, and I was thinking like, yeah, you're eating a good diet, and you're feeling a certain way. You just need to be able to recognise your symptoms, and recognise what those symptoms are from. And oftentimes we're misinformed by the dogma and they're like, oh, you need X amount of protein per gram of body weight, or X amount of fat per gram of protein, all these sort of different ratios and percentages and numbers. I think that's where a lot of people go wrong.
People fixate, don't they? On
They
them.
fixate, they love it. They
Yeah.
absolutely love it. So I'm working very hard. Jerome is also very well, and Sophie in the background as well, to make sure people are listening to their body, because your body won't lie to you. Your body's a much more calculated machine over, so many hundred thousands of years versus an app that's going to tell you what to eat and what not to eat over the span of a day, which has got a set amount of data input that you've given it. Your body is very complex, and your body will tell you if you do it right. So yeah, my number 2 is listen to my hunger signals better, be less robotic. Don't get focused on being perfect. Just let your body dictate what you do and don't need.
Do you find that there's a certain amount of time to where it takes your hunger signals to be a little bit more reliable? Because at least people coming from more of like a standard Western diet, a lot of times, just thinking about food, we can kind of get hungry, and then it's very easy in that situation to justify, oh, I'm getting slightly hungry, I should probably have something to eat. Do you find that carnivore helps fix that, or do you think that tends to take maybe 3, 4, 6, 8 weeks, or what are your thoughts on that?
With that one, I think it can take a bit longer. It's not going to happen overnight, and it's a very, very good question. So you won't hear people talking about this in the carnivore diet space. My feelings are that we have different ways to reach satiety. One way might be the nutrient density of the food. Our guts would have receptors to say you have or have not reached my nutrient requirement for the day that I need to function. Other things as well is the mechanoreceptors in your gut. Is your gut swollen or not? Are you, in a way, being disingenuous or unauthentic and saying, I'm going to feed myself lots of water to swell out my gut so I feel like I'm satiated? We know water is not nutrient dense. It has some electrolytes in it perhaps, but there's nothing in it inherently that's going to really prolong our journey, health, physique outcomes. So I'm looking at that thinking, okay, people drink too much water and they try to eat too much food. So that's two obstacles I can think of off the top of my head where people don't quite follow their body's hunger signals correctly. They rush it overnight. So my suggestion always for longevity purposes in the diet, which is the best diet we can follow, is to do it very gradually over a long period of time. So for example, if you know you're drinking 4 liters per day, and that's, fine. Okay, cut back down to 3.5. Do that every few weeks, then cut it down to 3, then become more in tune with your hunger and thirst signals. I find most people I speak to drink way too much, salt their food way too much, eat too high protein and too low fat. So I think the way I'd approach it is aim to increase your fat if you're coming from a standard Western diet, which is quite often quite low fat. That's going to stop you from having issues such as, should we say, loose stools. It's going to give you the energy intake that you need. So you'd scale down the carbs and scale up the fat gradually. Some people out there will be able to go straight from one diet to the next over like a week and be completely fine. That's not the case for most people. It's not, honestly, not the case. So that's why I'm having consultation with people all the time saying, I've got this wrong, it's not working, something's not working. It's always something very, very simple. Always, every single time. It's always hunger signals, drinking too much, eating too much protein, not enough fat, not adapting over a longer period of time, trying to do too much at once, not being consistent, eating off plan, and probably oftentimes as well, if they're coming from body composition kind of space like fitness is, they train too much volume. So that's what I'm seeing when it comes to hunger signals and duration of time. Yes, 6 to 8 weeks is good. Some people even longer. Some people might not have a gallbladder. They might not be able to create enough enzymes to break down the fat itself to then absorb into their body as an energy substrate. So yes, it will take longer than that. So 6 to 8 weeks is the minimum.
What about you, Jeremy? Have you got what's your first carnivore mistake you thought of?
The first one for me was adding fruit and honey. I did not do very well with that. So when I first got into carnivore, and I tried it just out of curiosity after watching Sean Baker and Michaela Peterson, I responded really well to it. And I was eating basically 3 pounds of meat in one sitting once a day. And I did very, very well with that for a while. And then I started listening to Paul Saladino and thinking like, okay, what he's saying makes sense. So I tried incorporating small amounts of honey right before my workouts. And I was thinking like, oh, okay, this will be a nice way I'll get some carbs in. It'll replenish my glycogen stores a little bit or top me off. I'll get my workout in, and then I'm just right back on carnivore. And what I noticed was I very quickly started having honey before my workout, honey after my workout, honey when I wanted a snack later in the day, honey plus fruit later in the day. And it became this, I got this really deep seated urge for carbs and for sweetness, and it made me go off diet quite a bit. It made me go back on basically a standard Western diet for quite some time, and it was hard to kind of work back into carnivore from that point. And I found that while strict carnivore for me was always very satiating, introducing smaller, even moderate amounts of carbohydrates had the opposite effect. It really, really messed with my hunger, and for me, it was no good.
So you've kind of got to be strict or
Yeah.
nothing really.
Yeah, and that's why I had asked you about moderating small amounts of chocolate or other treats on occasion, because for me, like one Skittle or one small piece of chocolate, and it'll like awaken this beast inside me that just wants to eat tons of crap that I shouldn't eat. So I do much better with just at
Just
zero.
nothing.
Yeah, just
That's like
completely
Jonathan,
abstain.
yeah.
Yeah,
He's like that. He can't just have a square of chocolate. He's got to have the bar. And if
Yeah.
he knows it's there, he's just thinking about it to have it.
what I've noticed recently is with any kind of binge situation I've had, which has been honestly much less than it has been in the past, significantly less. So the diet is working in that sense. It has fulfilled a role, definitely. I've noticed now I'm slightly better in terms of the negative effects if I binge on carnivore foods. So some days, if I'm feeling okay, I could really do another food now. Like I'm really, more food. I'm so hungry. I'll go downstairs. I'll make a raw milk, egg, protein powder shake. And if I'm still hungry after that, something's wrong. You know, I've done something wrong, because that's a big, you know, that's a meal. I've had 4 meals in a day, 4 square meals, you know, a bowl full of food pretty much. Then I've added a milkshake, which is like 500-600 ml onto that. If that doesn't feed those the hunger signals, then something's wrong.
There's something meant in your head then, isn't
There's
it?
something in my head. There's something in my head that's wrong. So that makes me think, okay, I've done something wrong here. But then I know if I go to the chocolate bars, something I really can't tolerate at all, packets of crisps or something like that,
Yeah.
even worse, that's they'll then start to suffer. But I don't suffer too much if I eat too much of the carnivore foods.
Yeah, you then
It's
have to
not
kind
as-
of make carnivore cake, don't you, to satisfy the sweetness.
Yeah, which is delicious, by the way. Excellent.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah. What are your other things you want to speak about?
Yeah, I want to follow up on something you touched on, obsessing over macronutrient ratios and meal timing. And I guess I could kind of piggyback this off of another point, was listening to too many voices within the carnivore space.
Yeah.
Anybody that gets into this infosphere, you'll get tons of different opinions and tons of different approaches. And there are very few people saying that, you know, there's not a one size fits all for everybody within the carnivore space. So the best I ever did in terms of sticking to carnivore, feeling good and looking good, was eating very instinctually. When I was hungry, I ate, and I ate largely what I wanted, just eggs or beef or sometimes fish. And I didn't really think about how much I was eating. But then our natural tendencies, especially people who are drawn to bodybuilding, is to try and optimize and to try and make everything perfect and just be a little bit better. And sometimes in doing that, we start thinking like, okay, well, what are my macros? You know, should I mess around with a little bit higher protein or a little bit lower fat? But if things are going well and there's really not a good cause for that, then I at this point, I would suggest not even messing with things just for the sake of optimizing. If you're looking good, feeling good, and things are moving in the right direction, I don't think there's a strong enough impetus to change anything. And that's thrown me for a loop in a lot of ways sometimes.
That's well thought out, yeah. Like with your upcoming competition, I'll look at the time frame you have to get to the contest weight that you're looking to achieve. I'll look at your last competition, how much you weighed then. I'd ask you how much muscle you built now. You know, those are things like hard data you can look at. I mean, it'll be plus or minus, but that's something I can actually look at. I'll also ask you about different subjective things like, oh, how did you feel 4 weeks out, 2 weeks out? You know, how much meat were you eating this sort of time, or you know, whatever you happen to be doing. That will give me some solid data. Your bodies are so dynamic, and things will change. Stress does impact your appetite, so
Oh, yeah.
it's so important to have a good coach and have the right questions lined up. You know, I've realised now from more experiences that as much as it's people giving you feedback, it's asking the right questions as well. They
Yep.
often lead to other information, which is very, very, very crucial. Yeah. Just as well, touching on like getting the right measurements. I mean, I've got some notes here about reducing protein intake. I started the carnivore diet high protein. I dieted and got into contest shape very, very, very high protein, and it worked. Saying that, I think I could have reduced the amount of NG output that I had to do to get in contest shape if I ate less protein. You know, I was eating 550 protein and 150 fat at my lowest. Yeah, no exaggeration. I'm talking about 550 protein, so we're talking like 2+ kilos of chicken breasts.
Yeah.
So a lot of food. I wasn't just eating chicken breasts, but you get the picture. But yeah, so I was eating a lot of food, and I was feeding into that demon. You know, the food volume satiety signal demon. You know, feeling full. You know, it's like I think it's a psychological problem that some people have, is they will never feel content unless they're physically full.
Yeah.
Which is a sad way to live, because you shouldn't be judging your life or how happy you are by the contents of your stomach.
Yep.
It should be the contents of what's around you, which is more important, and how that makes you feel within. So, from my point of view, it's too much protein was another problem as well. So, of course, now I've understood the problems I had with. I knew I didn't need that much protein. You know, I said from the start I didn't need much protein, but
Yeah.
the problem was that I was trying to fulfill that need to eat lots of food. Now I've reduced it back, and I'm now satiated from much, much less food. I'm just eating more fat.
Yeah.
And fat, as we know, Butter, for example, 82% fat per 100 grams, something like that. That's very satiating versus having to eat, an extra pound of chicken breast to get the same sort of starchy factor. You see what I mean? So it's we have two individual levers, proteins and fats. Don't mess around with the water, just drink to first, salt to taste. And that's kind of where I'm hitting it now. But I think what as well happened was I was not quite as well fat adapted as I am now. So I was trying to fill that energy requirement, the substrate, through the excess protein. Whereas I should just increase the fat slightly. I felt better. Digestion would have been a bit better. Sleep would have been better. Skin would have been better. So I would have achieved a lot more if I just did it right from the start. If I just got it right first time.
Yeah.
What about you, Sophie? You got anything to add to that?
As I kind of, yeah. How do I say it? So back in 2020 to 2021, I lost 6 stone in that year, and I did it kind of carnivore, but didn't know about it. I basically simply cut out bread, pasta, rice, potato. That was it, and I ate everything else. And now I lost the 6 stone. I don't know what that is in kilos.
I'm not sure.
No idea.
I'm going to work it out.
So I lost a lot, and I was still gymming at the time. I mean, I was doing mainly cardio because I didn't know.
32 kilos plus.
32 kilos. Thanks. But I've been carnivore since July last year. So what's that, like 9 months now? And in those 9 months, I've lost 24 kilos. But I've noticed a lot more muscle definition. Losing those 24 kilos, because at the end of 2021, well, when I lost the 6 stone, I did put on a couple of stone because I had a pregnancy, so that tends to happen. So I've kind of lost that and then a bit more. But yeah, losing less in one go, I noticed more muscle definition, and I think that's to do with the carnivore. But I think I was definitely obsessing over the macros, and I think I changed it too much, and I kept tweaking all the time, and so I feel like I listen to my body a bit better and then kind of stick with it.
Yeah, we're always looking for the
optimal,
the golden nugget, the special coin.
Whereas actually I just need more patience. That's my problem, I think, is I just need that bit more patience, I think, because I get so close to like a first goal, like the scale goals, you get so close to it, and then something happens. I sleep like crap, or I eat a meal too late compared to when I normally do it, just because life gets in the way. And then the scale shoots up, and then I then obsess over it, and then I worry over it, and I think I then stress more, and I'm like, oh, maybe I should tweak this macro and that macro, and it's not going down. And it's like, actually just be patient, because you're stressing your body out.
Yeah, that's very well said. I have this experience very frequently. People I consult with, they want me to look at their diet and change it, and look at their training, and I just ask them, what's your adherence been to your current diet? Unless it's been 100%, how do I know that what you've been doing or what you've been planning to do has or has not been working? How do I know that? You can't give me an accurate framework of what you've been doing currently, so until you can meet that adherence requirement, then I don't see a need to change it.
Yeah.
Of course, if someone had a macro plan, food plan, and it was causing them to gain fat, feel bad, of course, change it.
Yeah.
That's not the goal. As long as the direction that we're heading is in the right direction, of course. But yeah, we do have this desire as humans to change things all the time and be a bit better and be a bit better. But if we're not sticking to what was originally planned, then it's hard to get right. I just had a delight today, honestly, absolute delight. I had a coaching client who was a member of our Carnivore Crew Facebook community group, and they had tremendous results already after a month. I think about 6 weeks at this point, but saying that what they've learned is incredible. From the group itself, what they've learned about training, diet, the value of persistence, dedication. Then I'm looking at their actual fat loss, what's it saying on the scale as well. And they're heading in the direction. So I was looking at the goals again, I was like thinking, is this person meeting the goals, and why aren't they doing it, or why are they doing it? I always ask myself that question. If there's some sort of plateau, or something's not quite right, or something's not really doing much, I think, why is this happening? I look back at the goals over and over again and think, what was the obstacle here between them reaching the goals? And A lot of the times it is the adherence. I think I've got enough experience to know what someone needs to do to reach the goals. But when they start adhering to it better, then everything starts to come to fruition, which is an absolute delight because you know they're putting their trust in you
Yeah.
and you're trusting them. When that happens, your belief in this person goes up much, much more, which is so. It's a great pleasure, honestly. I'm sure you get the same, Jerome. Did you notice that with like adherence to diets and things, and just trusting the process as much? I hate that term as well. Trust the process. Like you'll be able to
Yeah.
explain it as well. I mean, you can always
Yeah.
explain it if you know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Well, it's yeah, and it kind of reminds me of one of my mistakes that I've made. If you have a plan for somebody, I think a lot of times it's human nature where if we fall off plan, we try and overcompensate in the other direction. And a lot of times we'll do more damage thinking we're going to just take a certain other action to overcompensate. If I mess up with my diet, then I'll just fast all day tomorrow and that'll just scrub out that difference. But then you get like halfway through the day, you just feel like crap and then you binge eat and then, okay, I can just fast the next 2 days. And it becomes this ongoing thing where if you just got back on plan, you'd make up that difference over the course of a couple of days, just in and of itself. And
Do you know what I call that, Jerome?
what's that?
Perpetual failure.
Oh, I was expecting you to call it like the Jerome syndrome. It's essentially, it's one of my points, and I don't want to take away from your question, but one of my mistakes that I've made was messing around with prolonged fasting. To me, it creates kind of a bad mindset. So most of what I do here in the studio is just focused on training, and I'll give general guidelines about diet. So I don't really get into too much of that with clients now, but the 2 phone clients that I have right now, it's stick to the plan and trust the plan. And we will raise standards if we need to, but I think you're right in what you say that if someone's not adhering to the plan, then it's not the plan's fault, but maybe a slight adjustment needs to be made to the plan so that it's more sustainable.
Exactly.
Because you can always ratchet it up just a little bit. So I guess that's how I would answer your question.
Yeah, that's a good answer. You have to meet people halfway. If it's if someone's plan is in such a way that you're holding the standards too high. You're saying you must eat 3 meals per day with this much protein, this much fat.
Yeah.
It depends on the client. If I'm working with a coaching client where after a period of time, I know how often they eat, I know when they eat in terms of their training time, how close relation that is, how close they eat to sleep, things like that. And if I notice, okay, there's a deviation here, I'll then reaffirm with them, okay, what are you doing? What time are you eating? What time are you drinking? What time are you doing all these different things, sleeping?
Yeah.
Usually some sort of change there. Of course, as we get leaner or get more muscular, things will change as well. So therefore, there's an indication that the plan would change. Just for a point of reference, for me to change someone's plan, it takes minutes, guys. It's the deciding to do it, which takes a long time.
Yep.
And it's looking back and forth, despite any contact from the client, where you're sort of spending time thinking, should I not? Think about all the conversations you've had prior to that, how they react, how they respond to different things. That's feedback you get over months and months for coaching someone. So it's helpful, and adherence is very valuable. So whatever you can do as a coach or mentor to sort of like get that person close to their goals and adjust the plan to suit is very important as well. Yeah. What else can we talk about in terms of our biggest mistakes?
Well, I could only really think of 2. So my first one is, I wish I would have transitioned slower from like the standard Western diet over to carnivore, because I basically just did it overnight. I just went from Monday I was eating however I was normally eating, and then boom, Tuesday, right, let's go for it. And although I'm very well fat adapted, I don't know whether transitioning slower would have helped me to stop eating the non-carnivores, because obviously, like I said earlier, I have something weekly, and although I don't go into a binge and I stop at that one little thing, it's still the fact of I'm having stuff weekly, or sometimes a couple of times a week if it's like family events and stuff that you just can't help it. But I don't know whether transitioning slower from standard Western, maybe going to keto and then to that, maybe I don't know if that would have slowed it down or stopped it or made a difference at all, or
So if you had a cleaner diet, before starting the carnivore diet, and what she's doing before she met me, for example, so it was better by default, you know. Whereas if I was a guy that just, you know, didn't give a crap, ate takeaways every week, didn't go to the gym, just a guy who just didn't care about his life or health at all, then of course Sophie would have had a much more traumatic experience starting the diet.
Yeah.
So I think there's levels to it, guys. You know, there's a well, I see it like, I don't know, breatharian, vegan, vegetarian. Well, I'll probably say actually they're probably better than the standard Western diet. Probably rehash that one. So breatharian's probably the worst. Standard Western diet, vegan, vegetarian, paleo, keto, carnivore. And carnivore, I think, is where the gun stops. Yeah.
But yeah, there was that, and I think I wish, from the mental side of it, I wish I wasn't doing carnivore purely for fat loss, because then I feel like that's why I obsess over the numbers on the scales and stuff like that. And I think I'd have a better relationship with food if I wasn't purely doing it for fat loss as opposed to just eating better.
Yeah.
Because my relationship with food has definitely gotten worse from when I did my weight loss back in 2020, from what I was eating then to what I'm eating now. Although I'm eating a lot cleaner and a lot better food, my relationship, like, mentally with food is a lot worse than what it was. So yeah, I wish I wasn't doing it purely for fat loss, because I feel like it would have changed maybe the mental side of it, and then hopefully I wouldn't have had this poor relationship with food.
Yeah.
Yeah, perhaps we could go into our biggest successes on the carnivore diet. So things we've learned, which you thought, wow, that was really paradigm shifting, or this was really thoughtful that I was able to learn this piece of information, or, you know, different things like that. Then, of course, after we've had this little segment, we'll open the questions up in the live chat for people to ask away any sort of related topics around, like what we just discussed, perhaps. So I might set this one up myself. I'd say the most valuable thing that I've experienced since being on the carnivore diet was being able to speak with Professor Bart Kay, both in interviews and on his live channel, to ask him questions on the spot. To be in a front row seat with a previous professor of nutrition, university lecturer, that would answer my complicated, weird questions that my lecturers when I was in university couldn't answer. So that's been very valuable to me. I'm having a front row seat with someone that is an expert in this field. So it's, for me, it's been probably the biggest success so far. And of course, outside of that is starting my YouTube channel, which has been somewhat successful.
Kind of, yeah.
Been all right. Then also helping Jerome along the way. It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks for all the help.
And also meeting Jerome, a new great friend of mine. So that's been one of my biggest pleasures as well. So I've been very grateful for this opportunity as well. What about you, Jerome? What's your biggest?
You're bullshitting at the moment with me. Thank you.
I got cross fingers.
Yeah. Really, I think that, and I started back in 2018. So really, I think that the best thing that's kind of come out of this for me has been having a social circle of people that are understanding it. When I first started it, my then wife, we would get in arguments because, like, she thought I was going to kill myself with this diet. And aside from the physical and transformations and how I felt and how I looked, it was really eye-opening when I hit a point. I'm thinking, like, you know, not only am I not going to die, but I feel a lot better than I have probably since I was 18. And there's a lot more support with people that do this diet and lifestyle now than there was when I got started. And it's hard when you're going out with friends or family and people are drinking or people are ordering tons of food, to try and be in an environment where you can still stick to a diet. Now, granted, most places, well, you can get a steak or a couple of burger patties at pretty much anywhere, but you get a lot of funny looks and you get a lot of people that are well-meaning that are just, no, it's okay. You can have a little cake. It's, you know, it's not going to kill you. But having the support that I have now with the Facebook group, with Jonathan and Sophie, with a lot of the people that are regulars in the chat, a lot of the Facebook messages, Instagram messages, that support system has been really wonderful, and it's extremely inclusive and very warm, and it just seems like everybody wants to see everybody else succeed. And I haven't had that in a lot of areas of my life where everybody just seems so united in this goal of just, hey, this is awesome. I just want to see you do better, be better, feel better, and look better. And that's a really beautiful thing.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I need to start, what's the word? Counting blessings sometimes.
Mm.
As much as I knew that and I think that a lot, I don't recognize it that much. And I'm now a moderator and admin on I don't know how many Facebook groups now. Part of it is just being a nice bloke, being honest with people, being loyal, trustworthy, not putting people down, putting out good information, being open to criticism, which is something I'm quite bad at. Oftentimes it's because people are idiots online and they're wrong. Yeah, I think you get the point. Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, I'm more interactive online than Sophie is. Sophie's busier in some ways. So a lot of what I do
I'm the one
is,
sorting the kids out while you're upstairs on the phone.
yeah, I'm the one talking to people and doing things online and trying to make things, do stuff, press buttons and things. So, yeah. What about you, Sophie? What's been your biggest pleasures on the carnivore diet, or being online to talk about it, or
I think actually being able to understand my body, because I've never been able to know whether I'm actually hungry, bored, whatever the reason. But this has kind of helped me to, understand it, and then to know what I need to do to make my body feel better. So like if I need to up my fat one day, or, up the protein or reduce anything, I've actually learned how to do that. And I would have never have known that. I mean, if I'm honest, I didn't know about carnivore until I met Jonathan. I was kind of doing it already, but
Yeah.
I didn't actually know about it. I thought, because of what we're taught with the pyramid and everything, I thought that we had to have everything that we were told to have. Whereas now, obviously, listening to Professor Barkay and, all the other people that are experts and, doctors, like actual doctors, not doctors of teeth, they know what they're on about. And if they're saying it and doing it, well, they're a professional, do you know what I mean? It's not just your typical, I don't know, Duncan from down the street. Like, it's actually a professional saying, you don't need that. They're telling you that. So now you think you do. So I have learnt a lot, especially from, like people like Jonathan and Jerome and all the other people in the carnivore community. And they're all very welcoming. They are all supportive. And I think you don't get that in, we won't mention them, but other kind of food groups. You don't get the support. You just get like bombarded with shit. And it's like, all right, hold up.
yeah,
I'm not telling you how to run your life, love.
I think the reason for that is their brains oftentimes, without sort of trying to sound abrasive, is their brains don't work very well sometimes. Like these, I say women's clubs just because they are clubs generally populated by lots of women. These women's weight loss clubs, they have articles, forums online, all sort of thing, meetings you can go to. You're not getting the right information from them. That's one thing. The second thing is, it can be embarrassing. It's not a personal endeavour. As much as they sort of say, oh, you're all in this together. Yeah, kind of. But then if you're being held to account for the amount of sins you've had each week, the amount of points that you've gone over, all this sort of thing, and it complicates the process. You have people around you in this sort of community which are they're oftentimes under the same severe health conditions that you're under, trying to do something good, which I think is very valuable. And a lot of people can relate to you as well. And like, what's funny for me is I relate best to people that are different age groups to me and different genders to me, which is strange, So I'm thinking, I can understand this person very well, but not someone my own age who doesn't have these problems. Like, I get messages sometimes like, oh, I saw your video about autism and that was really helpful. I'm glad to know someone else is doing this and they've had this experience. It reaffirms my belief. So it's like, okay, I've managed to successfully influence one person to keep doing what they're doing and recognise the strengths of what they've been given from the diet. Then it might be people on the spondylolisthesis group, the spine disease group, the chronic fatigue group. I mention some things here and there, just even if it's not say, oh, do the carnivore diet, just say, there's a benefit to eating animal foods. And they'll say, all right, why is that? Well, it has this, and you can't get this in these foods. Oh, wow, I didn't know that. Then, sometimes I'm met with a bit of disdain, perhaps, but at the same time, I can then show them some references, prove my point, send them a video based on what I've said. They're like, well, actually, I kind of believe you. I can tell you're a guy that's telling the truth, that you're not just mugging me off. So you're accountable for what you're saying. So that's why it's good to have people that, one, know what they're talking about, two, have experience themselves, and three, they want to help other people. So it's a complete multifaceted approach to improving health outcomes. And the great thing as well about YouTube is it's free. A lot of these groups, these live Q&As, these things are free, guys.
Yeah.
So I'd make use of all the information you've got, honestly. I'll probably do more interviews in the future with different carnivore people with different backgrounds, but for now I'm focusing heavily on the bodybuilding side of it. When I say bodybuilding, like Jerome and Sophie rightly know, it's not just people trying to build Olympia level physiques. It's anyone who's trying to improve their body composition.
Yeah.
If
Like
you're-
me, for example. Do you know what I mean? I'm definitely
Yeah.
not a bodybuilder ready for contest, but I'm still building my body to how I want it to be.
Completely true. Yeah, everyone that goes to a gym as a bodybuilder, in my
Yeah.
opinion, is just
Yeah.
a competitive bodybuilder is what I am. That's my own thing. You can be one too, but you don't have to be. It's not a requirement to join Carnivore Muscle Ramblings.
No? You just got to love a ramble,
I
really.
love a ramble.
Because you definitely get a ramble here.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have anything to add to that, Jerome? Or
No,
Like a
that was all very well said.
oh,
And I define bodybuilders the same way. Anybody that's going to the gym with either a primary or very a high goal of just trying to change their body composition.
yeah, there's ways to go about it. Definitely. The diet just amplifies the results.
Yeah.
I made a video today, by the way, guys, about a vegan bodybuilder. I'm sure he means well, honestly, but I didn't call him out as much as the last guy. But what I did say was he was trying to say that bodybuilding, like building muscle, is mostly about diet. I said, how are you going to build muscle without going to a gym or doing some kind of workout? And he's saying it's 60 to 65% and all these numbers. I'm like, God, you're just complicating it for the end user now. The guy or girl that's watching this is like, I don't know what's going on. It made it so much harder for them to access the information, much harder to apply it, and it's not completely true. I'd speculate, honestly, my best, if I could pick between having a perfect diet or perfect training, I think the training would get me most of the results. How do I know that? I maxed out my natural genetic potential by scientific standards, so to speak, getting the training pretty good. Not perfect, but it is pretty good. But the diet wasn't good. I was eating flapjacks and pasta. So, I think the training is critical if you want to build a lot of muscle mass. You won't just do it with the diet itself, but
No.
you only get so far if you want to get the best of both worlds in terms of like body composition, I think. Okay. Well, that's enough of that ramble. We're going to go into the comments section and see what's going on. Right. Excellent. So we've got Richard joined. Thank you for joining before work, I imagine. Ahoy.
We got a
Excellent
pirate
stuff.
on board.
Pacello as well. Brilliant. She's up late. Lambs, hey Lambs, how's it going? He said, I think it's easier if you stick to real foods. Appetite will not include powdered foods, I think. It's a cues between lean or fatty meat and dairy we can probably count on much more. I strongly agree with that statement.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, the days that I eat mostly meat and no protein shakes or anabolic mastermind power, ultimate muscle building, anabolism drinks, they're the days that I feel most satiated, I think. So yeah, I'd agree with that statement. What about you guys? Do you think it's mostly about meat and fat, or do you think dairy comes into it at all, or in terms of like hunger signals and appetite?
I just tend to think there's nutrient hunger and there's energy hunger.
Yeah.
You can have, like, I have bodybuilding shows in the past where I'm eating tons of chicken breast and protein shakes, And if you were to look at the effective energy that I was eating at the time, it would be closer to like 4,000 calories a day, but I was still really, really hungry. And on carnivore, it's far fewer so-called calories every single day, but the hunger is just not there because I think I'm eating much more nutrient dense foods. So yeah, I agree. Protein shakes, chicken breasts, stuff that's a little bit more bland. I don't think does much to actually fill you up.
Yeah, I think if I did my contest prep I did in 2021 again with, I did do mostly meat to be fair, but if I did it nearly all meat, yeah, I would not be eating 50 grams of protein. My body wouldn't let me.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with what Lambs is saying. Because when I did my previous weight loss and I included vegetables and stuff like that, and obviously they all tell you to do the low cal versions, you know, so you can put more on your plate to then feel fuller because you're eating more, but it's not obviously more calories. I didn't need that amount of food, and obviously now I can eat like less grammage of food, but I still feel just as full. Like for breakfast today, I simply had a chicken breast, some butter, and a butter bite, and that lasted me until my lunch while I was, you know, working. I was busy at work pushing patients up and down the ramp and in and out of places. And it's, if you was to look at that on a plate, you'd think, well, that's like nothing. How is that going to fill you up for the day? But it does. Whereas if I compare it to the old food, you know, where you're eating the non-real foods, you're having to eat more and more just to feel what you think is satiated. But then like an hour later, you're like, oh, I could eat something else now.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was constantly eating.
Yeah, I met a girl who was managing the health food shop, and she was quite a young lady, perhaps 4'11". She was a vegan lady, and she was misinformed by general population about what is and isn't a good diet. You know, completely led astray. She didn't have a clue about the morality of plant crop agriculture, things like that, and the ethical side of it, the green planet side of it all. You know, the nutrient density side. She didn't have a clue. So she is led down the garden path, and it's such a shame because she had very, very, very bad mental health, like seriously bad. And I was quite disturbed at times because I was thinking, if this lady just ate a proper meal, you know, and her meals themselves were huge meals. I'm talking like kilos. Meanwhile, I'd come to work with my, you know, burger with a slice of cheese in it. That'd be my lunch. That'd be it. Nothing else. And I was a big person doing a lot of work around the shop, walking around and doing stuff. So, but she is very, very small, very frail, but she's eating so much food, but she never had that satiety signal. Anytime we do like a taste testing, she'd like want more food, and it's almost like she wasn't eating. And it is bizarre seeing someone eat such large lunch, and sometimes I think once we'd have dinner or something or whatever, and she ate a lot of food, and I was like, how are you? What? It didn't make sense to me, and she's very skinny. But it just goes to show you there's something about becoming frail and weak from the vegan diet. It just doesn't appeal to me. So as much as it is me just saying to people, yeah, veganism isn't great, it's like, no, I do speak from experience. I have seen people deteriorate from it. And it's just one example, and this was a common thing I'd see very frequently. So yes, I do have a total disdain for the vegan diet. Not vegan people themselves. It's nothing to do with them. It's not like a personal attack. It's the ideology and the lies that people have been told. And these are lies which I can arm myself against and defend to the brink of oblivion. Will not deter from my end goal, which is to defeat veganism.
I tried veganism, for 2 weeks, and it was the weirdest feeling having a stomach that was full of food and still being hungry and cold. I was cold all the time. And I remember I would eat like 5 or 6 apples and a bunch of nuts and like an orange. And I didn't want another bite because it didn't feel like there was any space in my stomach, but I was just hungry and cold and my energy was just terrible. And there's a reason I only went like eating that way for 2 weeks. And it makes me think too, this young lady that you were talking about, it makes me wonder if a lot of the food that is just going right through her and not even necessarily getting absorbed. because I know a couple of people too that will eat insane amounts and these huge salads and these big meals that are almost entirely plants and maybe a little bit of protein. And they're eating what looks to be like a lot of food, but same thing, like painfully thin almost, to where you're starting to think like this person looks like they're starving a little bit. And it makes me think their digestion is probably a little jacked up.
It starts from the mums and dads, doesn't it? I believe the lady's mother, I think it's a mother, was vegan, or at least plant-based. She had, I don't know how to put it, but she had a deformed jaw.
Sure.
Her facial features from like here down weren't very human-like, in the sense of like a common classical human being. And that, it said to me something about that is very obvious amongst vegan folks. Very, very obvious. You'll see it in the children as well. Like, like meat is a delicacy. It's a novelty for a lot of human beings, a lot of people over the world. And how do we know that? I mean, you just go around the globe, look at the places that eat lots of meat, look at the places that don't.
Yeah.
Children nowadays in the US, where the meat consumption has gone down perhaps in some places, their jaws are now narrower, and they've got what I call a balloon head. It goes up, round. But you won't see that in places like Hong Kong, because they value meat, and Japan as well. They eat lots of meat in these sort of places. They've got square jaws. They've got high IQs. You don't see them like balding very often. You don't see them with bad skin. It's not until they come to the Western world where they sort of have all these problems. So we have a perception of Asian people in this sort of area where they have like bad skin, sometimes a bit spotty, maybe bad teeth, like not good dental health. That's just the diet that we've put on them. It's nothing to do with them as a race. If we went to Asian countries, it'd be a completely different experience. They've got much better health in some cases, so it's the diet that's doing all this, and it's affecting our epigenetics, I think. But I don't know what I'm talking about anyway, so just forget it. Yeah, Rick, by the way, put your bell notification icon on.
You should have been here anyway, because we normally go at 7.
Yeah, we usually go at 7 Monday, guys. It'll from now on probably be about 7 or 7:15, depending on what I can suss out. So we'll just see how it goes. Yeah, Lambs is really struggling in the chat right now. Glad he's able to maintain good fight.
The riff-raff that we've got.
Keep him out. Hello, Lucy. I haven't recognised your name. I don't know. Nice to see you anyway. Thank you for joining. Hello, Rick, again. Funny vegan is only above eating nothing. Yeah, it's a desperation diet, I'll tell you.
And barely, it's barely above eating nothing.
Barely. Yeah, some cases, it depends what you're eating. If it is eating vegan diet as well. If it's spinach leaves, I'd take fasting to death. I'd take fasting over that, to be honest. At least then I'll have my kidneys intact somewhere. Yeah, I'm doing the vegan, not vegan. I'm doing the Wellfest in my area some point in July, I think. So it'll be a good one to look forward to. I'm doing a talk about plants trying to kill you.
Excellent.
Sounds familiar. It'll be good. And there's still Anthony Chafee slides, I think. Yeah, it'll be good. But yeah, that'll be an interesting experience. I'm looking forward to it a lot. Just hopefully I get met with lots of questions. I'll be able to answer all of them.
I imagine there's
all of them.
A good chance you will be. Probably get a lot of questions.
Yeah. I think a lot of it will be, if I don't have a reference for it, they'll say I'm an idiot. But then if I ask them something and they don't have references, like, oh, that's fair game, apparently. I'm sure that happened. All right. The obsession with weight loss is always bad for me now. I know it's merely a side effect of the wrong diet. Yeah, it can be. If you're deficient in muscle mass. Yeah. In fact, the stimulus having the supplies is kind of meaningless.
Yep.
Correct. Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, I think people will get the best naturally appropriate body composition, muscle mass, strength, just following the diet. But that's going to be different somewhat if you're training. The diet will be times 2 or times 1.5. It will be more food basically, because you have to deal with the output. So more raw materials on board to deal with the stimulus. I'm living proof that diet does not build us. Now, Rick, imagine if you didn't eat any animal foods at all. What would you be, a skeleton?
Wasting away.
Thoughts to ponder.
It's much more what you put in your mouth than the quantities. Quality over quantity.
Yeah. No worries. Speaking of, I'm glad you had, I think you had 3 christenings. Might be using the wrong word here. Or communions. He had 3 of those anyway this weekend. So glad he got some time to spend with family. And hopefully he has a nice rest from driving if he can.
Yeah.
Pilot, no, but still a captain, just of the nautical variety. Excellent. I don't know what I'm going through all of these. A lot of these aren't even questions.
No, I think we just had the one question from Lambs, didn't we?
Yeah,
3 communions.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we're going to go in a couple of minutes, guys. If you've got any questions, please line them up. Happy to talk about anything towards today's ramble and topic, which is biggest mistakes / biggest successes on the carnivore diet.
Have you got any more carnivore mistakes, Jerome? Do you have any more on the list?
No, nothing that hasn't been touched on. No. I mean, like some really small things, like every once in a while, if I was really wanting something sweet, I would go to the store and get like a Atkins brand dessert, and some of those will have really low net carbs, but it'll still trigger a massive craving in me. So at least for me, those are a mistake. I think a mistake a lot of people have with this is probably not getting a coach if they're not getting the type of results that they think they should be getting. There's been enough people that have been doing this for a long time that, if your weight's not coming off, if you're not getting stronger in the gym, if you're just not feeling right, you should probably look into some kind of coach or consultation with somebody for that. Jonathan's a great resource, especially around body composition and training. If it's more health related, Bart K is an excellent resource. But don't just accept the fact that whatever condition you're experiencing might be a chronic condition. You might be surprised at what a couple small changes will do towards getting things moving in the right direction again.
Yeah, completely true. Like what I experienced when I lost my appetite maybe 2 months ago or something. I really couldn't eat much, guys. Like, not much at all. And that was frustrating because it meant if I couldn't eat, I couldn't train. I couldn't even recover from the training that I wanted to do. I didn't have any energy. I feel a bit better now. Honestly, I do feel a bit better. But saying that, what I tried for, I think, 2 or 3 occasions was I just had some fruit. Just to pep me up, just to raise into levels a bit. And it did the job, honestly. People out there will say, you shouldn't eat fruit. It's not carnivore, is it? No, it's not carnivore food. No, it's from a plant, completely. Yes, ideally, I wouldn't have eaten it. Saying that, I ate it. It increased my appetite. I was able to then have more energy because I had more food in me. I was able to train. I felt better. I was able to do something I enjoyed doing. Then I had a flow chart of events which allowed me to get to where I'm now, which is in a position where I've got now roughly 90 kilos of fat-free mass on my body, whereas before, start of the year, I had about 88. So I've gained muscle because I ate some fruit. That's not because I eat some fruit. It's more because the fruit allowed me to eat some more food.
I'm going to make a soundbite out of that and make a video that carnivore bodybuilder eats fruit.
Eats fruit.
Misleads YouTube audience.
Don't listen to him.
Absolute liar. Absolute liar. Not original, not carnivore even.
Load of nonsense he's spouting.
Yeah. Honestly, the amount of fruit I've eaten over the last 10, say about 10 months now, probably. About 2 or 3 times. I'm talking like one of those fruit mix pot things. So not a lot. Not amount that you think, will throw you off. But yeah, I'd say for 99% of the nutrient intake in terms of like calories, fat, protein, carb, grams, whatever you want to look at, that is what is animal foods in my diet. 99%. I know that, maybe 98% some months, but 99% is the average, I think. So yeah, I'm not doing too bad overall. Not doing too bad at all. Definitely not eating fruit every day, or taking in carb powders like some people, or having rice with honey in it like some people.
Ooh.
I would have rice with honey.
You're gonna have to message me off camera, because rice and honey sounds like a bad idea.
And salt as well, better.
What a combination.
Yeah. Right, we're going to wrap this up in a couple of minutes, guys. Just looking at this. I've currently got 18% battery left. But it's a very powerful stream, so it involves a lot of power to produce. Yeah, you'd probably still be short as heck. Probably have bad teeth and probably be an absolute skeleton as well. Yeah. Rose great survival tool when you cannot find what you meat. Yeah. Yeah, I think it can, in some cases, make you a more, I don't know what the word is, a wiser predator. In that you realise fruit is not food that you should be eating all the time. But it gives you some energy to hunt down some real food. People that eat fruit, you know what happens. So you see it online, vegan, the epitome of vegan malnourishment, those videos, these guys are emaciated as hell. It's not just you're not just saying it for the sake of it. They actually are emaciated, and it is bad, and they are not healthy. They can't string words together at all, even worse than me. That's what shocks me. Never had any mistakes, any successes in carnivore. Well, maybe switching from South American diet to carnivore too quickly. That gave me some pretty frightening heart palpitations. Turned out to be electrolytes. Yeah, I remember you saying. Remember our correspondence a while ago? Yes, that was the issue.
Which is why we say to transition slowly.
Yeah, I always get cramps if I eat too much food and I binge, for example. Always. Or like muscle groups that are usually a bit tight suddenly get really tight and crampy, like my abs, biceps and calves. Not nice. Best just to keep your body in the right frame for as long as possible, I think. I will joining late. My biggest carnivore mistakes were eating too lean and under eating. Not a problem now.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They either
Especially the
undereat or
protein.
overeat, don't they?
It depends who you listen to, in that who your first port of call is. If you perhaps listen to Ken Berry, he says beef, butter, bacon, eggs. Pretty good protocol, seems to work. Eat as much as you can until you're comfortably stuffed. People hear that and think, comfortably stuffed. They'll ignore comfortably.
And just
They'll just hear stuffed.
And they'll overeat them.
Then they'll be eating a brick of butter a day with 2 packs of bacon, with 2 ribeye steaks, with 20 eggs. And I'm like, well, no wonder why you feel horrible.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious. But that's part of where people don't want to listen to their bodies sometimes. They want to
Just eat.
just follow what one guy on the internet says, but completely misrepresent what he says. So, it's frustrating. That's why now a lot of my answers are, it depends, do what works for you. These are things you should look out for. This is why I don't give these broad statements or guidelines, really.
Yeah.
Just because it'd be irresponsible. But, yeah, too lean to under eating.
Yep.
All right, next. My biggest silence win ever on keto carnivore. Get rid of retinas attachment. Any similar experience? No, I keep my retinas in my eyes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Best place for them.
Best place. I'm sure I
think
misunderstanding
anyway.
this. Yeah.
I'm not a doctor, but I am in the medical profession, and I feel like they should be, firmly detached. Firmly attached. Get rid of them. You don't need them anyways, Big Niv. You're all right. Can you tell it's been a long day at work?
Yeah, it has for me, yeah.
It has.
That's extremely amazing. I wonder if the carnivore diet is why I do not need eyeglasses. Probably not.
Could be.
Depends how many screens you look at. I think there needs to be some sort of study where you get some mice or something, or some sort of animal, with similar sort of eye compositions we do. Get them to stare at screens all day and get them not to, and see how it affects their lifespan and their eye health. There might be a study out there like that already. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a guess, if it says, "Oh, there's a 50% instance in whatever problem," then yeah, it's good enough problem for me to think, "Oh, I need to be more careful now." But we persist to stare at blue screens all day, every day. Jerome can't get enough. He asked me to go on the blue screen all the time.
Yeah. He always wants you on the video, doesn't
Always
he?
makes me on the video.
Always.
Yeah. Yeah, I love video chatting with Jonathan at all manner of the day.
Yeah.
I might get concerned at these kind of videos that you two are doing.
Oh, you have
It's a
no
new
idea
kind of-
what we have coming
It's a new
out
kind
soon.
of carnival ramblings.
Wait, hold on a minute, Sophie. Hold on.
What do you think muscle ramblings means?
Wasn't there a few weeks ago you were saying you wanted to see my striated glutes?
That's
you
right.
say
Yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah.
I recall
so
that.
But I was actually talking on Jonathan's behalf because he said it will sound weird if I ask, so you have to ask.
okay.
So I was like, okay, I'll be the weirdo and ask to see his
All right.
glutes.
All right.
Ask him to
show
drop
me
his
your glutes.
trousers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. People will get plenty of that come September, October, as that November
Fantastic.
contest comes up. So we're gonna push the limits with how much skin we can show on YouTube.
Have you got glutes before, Jerome?
No,
Why not?
never had striated glutes, so
Why not?
I wasn't lean enough.
All right, we'll have to change that then.
As long as it's just your skin that's showing and not Jonathan's. There's enough pictures of him
Yeah.
in his pants out on the internet, thank you. Don't need it live on camera as well.
I imagine it. Yeah, we're gonna make some fun videos. I know I'll probably have we'll have to do one where it's just gonna be posing, and Jonathan's like telling me like everything
I'm like-
I'm messing up and not doing right.
With my magnifying glass and eyeglasses.
But
and
not
just
kill us
it's-
out.
checking
It's
the
from like
angles.
a competitor standpoint. Like when you're new to it, you just see people holding poses in a certain way, but you don't realize that the judges are sitting down a number
Down
of
by
feet,
you.
and they're a good 30, 45 degrees down from wherever you are. So when what you see on camera is very different sometimes to how you hold it, unless you see bodies from different angles. So I've always just practiced posing by myself in the mirror, but I know my posing isn't great.
You won't be.
Yeah, not
mine's
practicing.
Mine's not even great. Mine's my transitions are my worst thing at the moment, just because I have not practiced transitions in a long time. My poses themselves, if I can see myself doing them, they're good. I'd say they're not quite pro level, but they're pretty close. The issue I have at the moment with my right shoulder, I can't move my shoulder in the right position to pose my right side. Sometimes holding poses with my right hip the way it is painful. So there's some limitations I have. I can't do a right quarter turn without a lot of pain, but I can do a left quarter turn. So what that means for me is I'll never be completely symmetrical pose by pose. My muscles might be, but my ability to pose them won't be. So
Yeah.
that's something we'll look at in great detail. Yeah, when you've got the best transitions on stage, honestly, it looks sick. And everyone looks at you. You might even have the worst physique, but it helps.
I can't
Yeah.
even pose.
Well,
No
it's
idea.
Yeah.
and Jonathan and I've talked about this before, but like posing at like 15% body fat is very different than how it feels in your body at 3, 4, 5% body fat. Certain poses you can tell that skin just isn't there, like when you're holding a side chest when you're lean. So don't worry about not being able to pose right now, Sophie.
I'm all right. I'm not competing until my body's in better shape. So I'm thinking maybe
Yeah.
next year, or even if I need to, the year after. So, and that's if I still decide to. It might just be that I just do it for myself,
Yeah.
and just, I don't know, do a posing routine in the mirror or something.
Yeah, my goals for my next competition, we're on this sort of little tangent. My biggest goal is to beat everyone. My second goal is to have such a stage presence that people don't think I've got something wrong with me. Where I can pose, move like a normal person. Right? It's obvious that I'm not in pain, or at least I can show people that I'm not in pain. Where I'm not sort of like limping one side, like because I can't quite stand upright. Other thing as well is to continue to have the best posing routine on stage. Outside of that, I don't know, just do something jaw dropping, which makes people think, "Fuck, that looked really good." Like just for the sake of like someone thinking that, like, if I put that video up, people are like, "What? That's a real human being doing that." That's what I'd love to achieve.
Like a double backflip into a somersault, cartwheel, headstand, kind of like that.
Now I'm thinking more like Cedric McMillan, 2016 Arnold Classic posing routine, or Phil Heath 2017 posing routine where he had Conan the Barbarian's theme music, or I don't really like Frank Zane's posing routines.
Thank you.
Funnily enough, yeah,
Yeah,
too skimpy, too weak looking. I don't know. There's a few I can think of. Sean Roden posing to Whitney Houston, 2011 Arnold Classic Europa. Sean Roden's Olympia win in 2018. That was a good pose routine. Flex Wheeler, 1993 and 1998 or 9. We had a mixture of like rap music, hip hop, and some sort of like love ballad as well. That's quite a cool one.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm trying to think of the year. Skip LaCour did a similar thing, so I wonder if that was
Maybe.
like 'cause he did "Rock the Bells" by LL Cool J into it wasn't Whitney Houston, but it was something very similar.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Yeah, my favourite poses are probably Cedric Millen and Sean Roden. I like their stuff. And Phil Heath as well. But Phil Heath is different because he's so well muscled all over. It's a different kind of look. Like he couldn't be so flowy because he's so big overall.
Yep.
He couldn't get away with like doing too many floor poses. When he's hit a floor pose, it just looks stupid.
Yeah.
It doesn't look bad. It just doesn't look right on his body because he's too big and powerful.
Right. Yeah, there are reasons certain guys can get, why Bob Paris can do some of the lunges that he did. The lunges where he's like stroking his hair back with one arm and like hitting a single bicep with the other. Like you wouldn't see Dorian Yates do that.
No.
So, yeah, posing it's every bit as individual as your physique.
Might let Jerome have my posing routines.
Do you want me to watch yours?
And I want you to do it. In
Okay.
case I can't ever do it.
Okay, that's
I'll give you a
do-
choice of a few of them.
sure. I'll do your
I've got
whole
about
posing
5.
routine, and I know like I'm just end up taking this laptop and this webcam and like setting it on the ground at a height from a back in room and
From a
and we can
judge's point.
practice posing that way, and you can walk me through the transitions between poses because I've always been really really basic, but when the more modern Olympias that I've been watching, they've been putting a lot more effort into transitioning between poses. And that was something that, I don't know, maybe it's just the more amateur contests over here. You tell someone to do a quarter turn to the right, and most people just do a quarter turn to the right. There's not this beautiful, like, flowing.
Stomp. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a different thing every year. Everyone takes it much more seriously because it's much more competitive. And people here that do compete either, one, do it for themselves, so they're quite not great, or people that take it so seriously, you think, fuck, they spend hours doing this just to do this turn in this position just right. You can tell. So, yeah, you get two sort of kind of people over here, but in the States, it's not very competitive. I see in most competitions, it's like, God, I'd trounce all these guys. I'd piss all over them. And these are like pro qualifier shows.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying I'm the best in my shows in all cases, but like people in my shows would trounce over them, but they would not even get close to a pro card in my country.
Yeah.
The conditioning's usually not there. The posing is always quite bad as well, but it's, I don't know. I say this just from what I see, what I see online, so I don't know what I'm talking about really. I'm just my own little thoughts.
Just rambling.
Yeah. This is a great format, guys. In my honest opinion, very laid back and informative. Yes, excellent. Glad you liked it. Very good.
Cool.
Yeah, so the way, just for anyone that is still watching this now, the way we'll format it is we'll have a topic of choice. We'll probably go into the topic or go around it, maybe slightly around the edges. Then depending on how long it is, it might be 20 minutes, might be half an hour, might be less, might be more. Then we'll open up the floor for you guys like we did today to answer any questions you guys have. Ideally, you keep it on topic, but if there's something pressing, which is very important to you, which we might not be able to get around to, then please just ask it and we'll get to it if we can.
Feel free to add a super chat. It might bump it up the
And a
list.
super chat might bump it up. I've had 2 super chats recently from a kind donated to my channel. His name is Christopher Ellis. He might be in the chat right now, I'm not sure, but he has donated me the equivalent of around £10 British over 2 super chat donations. So much appreciated. Thank you for that. It does help my channel a lot, and that is currently 1/5 of my overall YouTube earnings for this month, coming from one person.
Straight in the laptop fund.
I just want to reiterate the fact that people out there are very generous. I don't expect it, guys, but honestly, even if any of you can donate in the form of like the £1.99 membership thing, it shows me you care about my information, my channel. It shows me that you support me and Sophie, and it shows that you also care about the information that Jerome is giving. So it does mean a lot, and it is appreciated, even if it's just £2. So it does go a long way towards our egg purchases and ability to maintain a proper human diet. So if you do have it spare, I do appreciate it, without being all preachy and
Hell yeah.
don't ask, don't get. That's what I say. Brilliant. That's all for today, isn't it? What do you think?
Yes, I think
so.
that's it. I think that's a wrap, as they say.
Excellent.
An egg wrap to what we have.
All right.
Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. We shall see you on Monday.